watch to see how the Democrats regret inviting Candace Owens to this hearing, as she does not take their bait when she answers about white supremacy. Have a watch.
We've had 300 and something murders in Chicago this year. The number varies and it changes literally by the day, sadly and tragically. But I'm looking at some data here. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, that black victims of the murders are 291 murders in Chicago just this year alone. And you can go through different data points. Black homicide victimization, I've got a stat here, 13% of the U.S. population, but yet 51% of homicide victims. Can you speak a little bit about that and about the reality of that and some of the policies that lead to that and your perspective on that element of crime?
Certainly, which is why I wanted to bring that up, because presumably if we're going to be having a hearing on white supremacy, we are assuming that the biggest victims of that would be minority Americans. And presumably this hearing would be to stop that and to make sure that we can preserve the lives of minority Americans, which, and based on the hierarchy of what's impacting minority Americans, if I had to make a list of 100 things, white nationalism would not make the list. And we don't see hearings on those bigger issues. You brought up the inner city communities, which is a huge issue. Black on black crime, the breakdown of family, I think is the number one thing that's contributing to that. And we never hear anybody talking about what happens when you remove a father from the home. In fact, I would argue that right now we have a social environment that is hostile towards men and it does not inspire masculinity or being a man and what it means to be a father figure in a household. Black Americans are definitely suffering from the breakdown of the family. And when I say that liberal policies inspire that, what I mean to say is that via the welfare system, we are quite literally seeing the incentivization of bad behavior. When you know that your family gets more money, as a single mother, you will get more money if you don't marry the father of your children. You're not going to marry the father of your children. I've seen this firsthand. And black on black crime is a huge issue in America right now, but people don't like to talk about that. It seems as, well, let's talk about the smaller issues and not the big issues that are facing black America. We saw this same sort of a narrative in 2016 when police brutality became at the forefront of the discussion. And if you were paying attention to politicians, you would have thought that if you were a black American, you couldn't walk outside without being shot by a police officer, when in fact you had a higher chance of being struck by lightning as a black American in 2016 than being shot unarmed by a police officer. The truth is that leftists and Democrats don't want to see these issues fixed in black America, because then they can't stump on those issues. You know, we see this rhetoric every 4 years ahead of an election cycle get drummed up. We heard Chairman Raskin in his opening statement mentioned the Trump administration is doing nothing, and that really is the nucleus of what we're seeing here today. We're seeing an attack on an administration, an attack on conservatism ideals ahead of an election cycle. There's no real effort to fix the issues that are in black America, or the things that are hurting minority America, because believe me, they don't want those issues to be fixed.
Candace is spot on when she says how every single time an election year comes around, the media, the Democrat leaders really heighten the lies, all the lies about black Americans, and how, you know, white supremacy is the real cause of everything that's wrong with, you know, that they're challenged with, which is totally bogus. She's correct in saying that Democrats don't ever want to solve the problem, don't ever want to make the lives of minorities better, because they want them to continue to feel like they're a victim. They want them to continue to be angry and to look at white people as the people who are making their lives awful. They don't want to address any issues about how fatherless families are having kids, you know, turn to drugs, getting, you know, arrested, and crime. They don't talk about that, because if they solve that problem, then they're not going to have black minorities, or minorities in general, be so wanting of the policies of the government. For instance, when she mentioned about welfare, and when she mentioned about you'll make more money if you don't marry the father of your child, what type of horrific policy is that? I mean, I know the argument in the Democrats going to be like, well, we want to give a single mom more money, but that's, incentivizing, as Candace said, for that mother not to marry the father and to continue to increase the number of households who have fatherless, no fathers in the household. And she's right. It bothers me that the Democrats will continue to really rise a false awareness about the racist that's happening in this country, always around an election time, because they want minorities to just feel like they have to stay with Democrats because they're going to make their lives better. But why don't American people who always vote Democrat, and you're angry about how your life is because of the policies Democrats put in place, just try one year, one term to vote Republican. You saw what it was like when Donald Trump was a president for 4 years. Your life was a lot better. Do it again.